Hey guys, it's Kaylin and Riley here, and today we're going to have a conversation about adding and subtracting integers. It's really important you keep your rules separate. Adding and subtracting integers, totally separate rules from multiplying and dividing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what it looks like when you see problems with adding and subtracting. You're going to see things like -5 plus a -3. So when you see these parentheses, a lot of times we talk about parentheses being multiplication, but because you see an addition sign here, that means you're adding. Okay, so these parentheses don't mean multiply. The only time that you would know to multiply is if there's nothing in between. So if it said -5, parenthesis -3, they're touching each other, then that means to multiply. So just make sure that you see the difference between -5 plus -3, or if you saw -5 minus -3, and then -5 times -3. So these parentheses are just kind of holding in the negative. It doesn't mean that you're multiplying. All right, the other thing we want to discuss is when you see the words attached to your problems that say add. So it could say add -5 plus -3. It also could say add 5 plus -3. You could disregard the words add or subtract, because essentially when you're adding or subtracting with integers, you might be adding or you might be subtracting. So if it helps you to even cross out the words add, or if it asks you to subtract, you could cross that word out too, and just focus on the numbers given to you. So when you're adding and subtracting, you're going to be basically deciding, are your numbers going to be falling into these two categories? Are they going to be the same signs, or are they going to be different signs? And depending on that, it's going to tell you if you're going to add or subtract. So let's do some examples, and with our examples, we're going to be drawing pictures. So the first one we're going to do is 5 plus -3. And notice that I didn't attach the word add or subtract, but in your practice problems, you probably will see the words add or subtract. So we're going to see, am I actually adding or am I subtracting these numbers? And I'm going to figure it out by using pictures. So I'm going to put 5 positives. So 1, 2, 3. Actually, sorry about that. Let me squeeze this up so you can see it a little bit better. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to put on 3 negatives. So I have 1, 2, and 3. So the rule is, if I have a plus and a negative, a pair of those cancel. That would be like if I earn $1 and then I spend $1, essentially I'm back at 0. Okay? If I earn $1, spend $1, I'm back at 0, cancels. If I earn $1, spend $1, it cancels, I'm back at 0. What's left over? I have 2. What are they? They're positive, so my answer is a +2. Okay? So when I added these two numbers, a +5 and a -3, I had left over a +2. There was more in the positive direction. So let's do the same problem. Let's change it up a little bit. Okay, so instead of this being a -3, let's have it be a +3, and let's make this be a -5. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives, and I'm going to put 3 positives. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the same idea. Now I've spent $1, but then someone gave me $1. So essentially, I'm at 0. Those cancel. Anytime I have a pair of a negative and a positive, those cancel to give me 0. I have another pair of a negative and a positive. Those cancel to give me 0. What do I have left over? I have 2 negatives. okay? I have more in the negative direction, okay? So in both those two examples, I was adding together integers that were different signs. One was positive and one was negative. And in both cases, I didn't know if I was going to have a positive or negative number. I had to do the math to figure it out. But in both cases, whatever number I had more of, so in this case I have more negatives, it came out with a negative number. Let's do one more. Okay, so let's do -4, and I'm going to add a +2. Okay, so same deal. So I have different signs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I have +2, so 1 and 2. Okay, so I spent $1, but then I earned it back, so I'm at 0. Spent $1, earned it back, I'm at 0. What's left over? I also happen to get -2. I have -2 left over. So -4 plus 2. Let's think about this with money. If I spent $4, but then I earn $2 back, or if I owe somebody $4 and I give them $2, I still owe them $2. So it helps us think about this in terms of money. I'm still down $2 if I was down $4, but I went up $2. Okay, so I'm still in the negative zone. So if we can think about a rule that works for any time that I'm adding together two numbers that have different signs. So here's our first rule. So different signs. So different signs. Okay, and I told you in the beginning that you can disregard if it says add or subtract. Okay, because we don't know what we're going to be doing. Different signs, we know we didn't add those two numbers together. I didn't add 4 and 2, I actually subtracted them. So different signs, subtract. Okay, so that's the first thing we did. We're going to subtract those two numbers. Then, how do we know what the sign is? Take sign of, I'm going to put this in quotes, the bigger number. Okay? What I mean by bigger is I mean whatever number is the most power. So in the last example we had a -4 plus 2. We took the sign of the bigger number, meaning the 4. So in other words, the absolute value of that number, whatever number is bigger, we are not including the sign. So whatever has the more power. So that's important. It's the bigger number, but not talking about what's actually bigger, because we know that -4 is not bigger than 2. Okay, so that's the first rule. There's only two categories that our numbers are going to fall into. They're either going to be different signs, or they're going to be the same signs. So let's do an example of what happens when you have the same signs. Okay, so let's use our same example, but let's do -4 plus -2. All right, so now I owe somebody $4. Okay, I also owe them $2. Okay, I can't cancel anything out. I don't have any positives to cancel with my negatives. So essentially, I'm just going to add all of my negatives together. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How much do I have? I have 6. 6 negatives. Okay, there's no way these can magically become positives. Okay, so when I add these negatives and add these negatives, all together I have -6. I think you could agree with me, +4 plus +2 is a +6. Let's do one other example. Okay, we'll take our -5 and -3 example. Okay, and I think you can see what's going to happen. I'm just basically going to draw a bunch of negatives. 5 of these, 3 of these. Nothing can cancel, so altogether I have 8 of them. 8 negatives. Okay, so our rule when it comes to same signs, so when they're both negative, So here's our other rule. So same signs. So different signs subtract. Same signs add. And we're going to keep the sign. Okay? If I'm going to go shopping and I spend money and I spend money and I spend money, I'm spending money. I'm negative money, I'm adding that negative money. I'm not all of a sudden getting positive money because I'm spending money. So you're going to add up how much you've spent. That's like your negative money. You're keeping the sign. It's still in the negative realm. All right, so there's only one other thing I want to talk about when it comes to adding and subtracting when it comes to integers, and that's subtraction. We didn't really talk about subtraction. I'm going to use this example, -4 plus -2. Okay, -4 plus -2, this is really the same thing if I rewrote it as -4 minus 2. And you would probably see this under a section that said subtract. Okay, and what I told you is you can really disregard words that say add or subtract. And how I would look at this problem is I would really look at it like an addition problem. Okay, and instead of seeing this as a +2 being subtracted, I'm really going to look at this as an addition problem, and I'm going to see that as a -2. So when I do my drawings, here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, -2, I have 2 of them. Okay, so I really see this as an addition problem, and I'm going to do it the same way we did the other ones. How many do I have? I have 6 negatives total. Okay, so when you're doing problems that have to do with subtraction, I would encourage you to see it as really an addition problem, and instead of seeing it as -4 minus a +2, think about that as actually being a -2. Okay, and then there's one actually extra thing when it comes to subtraction, and this is kind of a tricky concept, and it's this. So if I had a -4 minus a -2, okay? So in English, I will look at that as I'm not going to be doing something. So if I told you that I'm not going to do my homework, what I'm really saying is I am. So in English, a not statement turns it positive. So if I use that same logic, not means that I'm turning my subtracting a negative into an addition sign. So if I'm not, I am. So when you do these problems, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about why mathematically this works, but when you're doing these problems, I would encourage you to rewrite a double negative as a plus sign, and then essentially you're doing this new problem. -4 plus 2, we talked about our rules. Different signs, subtract, take sign of the bigger number. 4 alone is bigger, so my answer is -2. Okay, so mathematically, let's also look at this problem. Okay, another way to look at this is subtraction means difference. So if I'm saying what's the difference of 8 and -1, okay, I could draw a picture. So if I'm at 8, here's 0, and here's -1, and I want to know what's the change. How far do I have to go to get from 8 to -1? Well, if I'm starting at 8, I have to go down 8 to get to 0. So that's a distance of 8. And I have to go another 1. So total, my distance is 9. So mathematically, that's a way to look at it. Is my total distance that I have to go 8, and I have to add on another 1. But just for the purpose of doing these types of problems, what I would do is see that when I have a double negative, I'm going to turn that into a plus sign. Nothing else changes. That's still a 1, and my answer is 9. Alright, I hope this helped. In the next video, we're going to talk about multiplication, and then after that, we're going to talk about exponents.